Daddy, please don't let them take me." Those were the last words anyone heard from 6-year-old Liam Carter before he vanished from Oak Ridge Academy, the most elite, most secure, most untouchable private school in Los Angeles. The city erupted instantly. Amber alerts, helicopters, breaking news banners flashing, kidnapping in Beverly Hills. The kind of headlines that made every wealthy parent clutch their child closer. Everyone believed it was a ransom kidnapping. Of course they did. Liam was the son of Daniel Carter, one of the richest tech billionaires in California, a man whose last name was stamped on skyscrapers, satellites, and half the apps on every phone. But the truth didn't surface for another 48 hours, and when it did, it cracked the Carter mansion so violently the whole city felt the aftershocks. Because Liam wasn't taken by strangers. He was taken by someone inside the house. Someone who knew the gate codes, someone who knew the schedules, someone who knew exactly where the security cameras didn't reach, someone who wanted money, or revenge, or something far, far worse. One woman would piece the truth together, one detail at a time. A woman no one watched, no one respected, no one feared. The maid. And her first move after the kidnapping would blow the entire Carter family apart. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and tell us in the comments which country you're watching from. Now, at 2:58 a.m., the kitchen of the Carter mansion sat in perfect silence, lit only by the red glow of the digital stove clock. The marble floors reflected the faint light like a pool of blood in the dark. Elena Ramirez, the maid, slept on the small fold-out cot in the laundry room. She had finished polishing silverware barely 3 hours earlier. Her body was sore, her eyes heavy. Which is why she heard nothing. Not the soft click of the side door unlocking, not the barely there footsteps crossing the kitchen, not the faint whisper of a voice in the dark hallway. But Isabel Laurent heard everything. Daniel Carter's glamorous, icy, stunning fiancée, socialite, charity darling, and the woman the paparazzi called America's most beautiful, almost billionaire. She moved barefoot through the house, her silk nightgown brushing the floor like mist, her pulse steady despite knowing exactly what she was about to do. She had been awake for hours, pacing her walk-in closet, checking her phone, rehearsing her lines. This moment had been planned to the second. She stepped outside into the chill of the California night, the moon hanging low over the manicured gardens. The air smelled like jasmine and chlorine from the infinity pool. In the far right corner of the yard, beneath an arch of rose vines, sat the one place Daniel always forgot to update on the security blueprint: a blind spot. Isabel dug her hand into the pocket of her robe and pulled out a cheap burner phone, one she had purchased in cash 2 days ago from a liquor store downtown. Her thumb trembled ever so slightly as she dialed a number she had memorized. The call connected immediately. A rough, gravel-coated voice spoke first. "I'm behind the fence. You alone?" "Yes," Isabel breathed, scanning the dark yard. "Everything's ready." "You sure you want to do this?" the man asked, almost amused. "Last chance to back out." Isabel bit the inside of her cheek, a habit she'd had since she was 12. It was her tell when she felt trapped. "I said yes," she replied, harsher than intended. "Just listen carefully." "Go on." 200,000 now, another 200 when the job is finished. The man whistled low. "For a babysitting gig?" "Don't joke. This has to look real." "Oh, it will," he murmured. "You gave him his schedule?" "Liam leaves Oak Ridge Academy at 3 p.m. sharp. It's always Elena or the driver who picks him up. You'll have a 10-minute window before anyone notices something's wrong." "And you're positive his old man will pay?" the man asked. Tech boys can be cold. Isabel lifted her eyes toward the second-floor balcony where Daniel slept without a clue that the woman beside him was dismantling his world. He loved Liam desperately. But Isabel? She was the accessory on his arm. Beautiful, well-behaved, replaceable. She wasn't going back to being replaceable. Not after what she discovered. Not after what Daniel had hidden from her. Across the mansion, in the small laundry room where she slept, Elena woke to the smell of freshly brewed coffee and the faint echo of raised voices upstairs. She stretched her tired arms, rubbed her eyes, and wondered why the house felt off. Too quiet, too tense, too rehearsed. But Elena had worked for the Carters long enough to know her place. She made breakfast exactly the way Liam liked it, star-shaped pancakes, extra syrup on the side, and walked upstairs to wake him up. She didn't know that by afternoon she would be the last person to see him. She didn't know that the plan to kidnap him had been set in motion right under her nose. And she didn't know, not yet, that her next decision would change everything. Because Elena wasn't just the maid. She was the only one paying attention. And when the truth came for the Carter mansion, she would be the only person brave enough to fight it.
Elena tightened the straps on Liam's miniature backpack as he squirmed sleepily on the edge of his bed. Sunlight pooled across his superhero bedsheets, warming his small cheeks. He blinked awake slowly, rubbing his eyes the same way he had since he was a toddler. "You're up early, pequeño," Elena whispered, smoothing down the cowlick in his hair. Liam's voice was soft, still foggy with sleep. "Is Daddy home?" "He's getting ready for work," she replied gently. "You'll see him before school." Liam nodded, but didn't smile. Daniel had been traveling non-stop for the past 3 months. Even now, he was halfway out the door almost every morning before Liam had a chance to hug him. "Do you want breakfast?" Elena asked. "Yes, but only if you make it," he mumbled, leaning his head against her arm. That sentence always warmed her chest more than any heater in the house. She remembered when she first arrived, 3 years ago, with a suitcase full of borrowed clothes and a heart full of panic because she didn't know a word of English beyond yes and sorry. Liam was only 3 then, a quiet boy who hid behind furniture and cried whenever strangers came near. The first time Elena made him star-shaped pancakes, he laughed for the first time since his mother died. From that moment, she had loved him as if he were her own. She led him downstairs, holding his tiny hand as they walked into the vast, gleaming kitchen. Stainless steel appliances reflected their shapes, making it look like there were 2 Elenas and 2 little Liams moving together. The house felt too still this morning, too stiff. Isabel sat at the marble island in a silk robe, stirring a cup of tea without tasting it. Her posture was picture perfect, shoulders back, neck long, hair cascading like a shampoo commercial. But her eyes were unfocused, darting toward the hallway every few seconds. "Good morning," Elena said politely. "Morning," she replied with her artificial sweetness. "Make his breakfast quickly, please. Daniel wants to leave early." Elena nodded, ignoring the tone. The pancakes sizzled softly as the batter hit the pan. Liam hovered at her side, watching with fascination, just like always. "Elena?" he asked quietly. "Yes, sweetheart? Will you come get me from school today?" She smiled, brushing a lock of hair from his forehead. "Of course. I always do." But she didn't notice Isabel flinch at those words, or the way her grip tightened around her teacup. Because that sentence, "I always do," was exactly why Isabel had chosen this afternoon for the kidnapping. Predictable, safe, easy. By the time Daniel walked into the kitchen, suit jacket in hand, Liam's breakfast was perfectly plated and waiting on the island. "Morning, buddy," Daniel said, giving his son a quick pat on the back, the kind of rushed gesture that was supposed to replace a real hug. Liam stared at the floor. Elena watched it quietly, her heart sinking. She wished Daniel could see how much his son needed him, how desperately the boy craved attention from the one parent he had left. But Daniel was already pulling his phone. "Isabel," he said without looking up, "I'll have the driver pick me up outside." "Of course. And Liam." "Elena will take him," he replied, not even glancing in their direction. It was like they were ghosts in his mansion, Seen, but not acknowledged. When Daniel finally left, the whole house seemed to exhale at once. Liam finished his pancakes, Elena wiped his mouth with a warm cloth, and Isabel, she checked her watch for the 15th time. Every tick of the clock was a countdown. 3 more hours until pickup. 3 more hours until the plan unfolded. At 8:05 a.m., Elena zipped up Liam's coat and held his hand as they walked out the side door toward the driveway where her old Honda was parked. The car looked painfully out of place. Faded paint, dented bumper, sitting between 3 luxury vehicles worth more than Elena would earn in 10 years. Liam didn't care. He loved her car. "It smells like cookies," he often said, because it always did. As they drove through Beverly Hills toward Oak Ridge Academy, the world transformed outside the windows. Gated mansions turned into crowded streets and cluttered crosswalks. Elena hummed a soft tune her mother used to sing, and Liam leaned forward from the back seat. "Elena?" "Yes, sweetheart?" "Do you think Daddy misses me when he's gone?" She felt her chest squeeze painfully. "I'm sure he does," she whispered. "But he doesn't act like it." Elena's fingers tightened on the steering wheel. "Sometimes grown-ups forget to show their love," she murmured gently. "But that doesn't mean it's not there." Liam didn't respond. He just stared out the window, small hands balled in his lap. When they reached Oak Ridge Academy, the tall wrought iron gates loomed overhead, more fortress than school. She parked by the curb. "Okay, little star," she said softly, kneeling to zip up his backpack. "Be good. I'll be right here waiting at 3 o'clock. You promise?" "With my whole heart." He hugged her tightly, the way only children who trust completely know how to do. She watched him walk through the gates, turning twice to wave at her. Then he disappeared inside. What Elena didn't see, what she couldn't see, was the black SUV parked across the street. Windows tinted, engine running, taillights glowing faint red. Inside sat a man with a scar running down his left cheek, and a photograph of Liam taped to the dashboard. Ray Dalton didn't blink, didn't flinch, didn't hesitate. He had done this before, and this time he was getting paid more money than he had ever seen in his life. He watched Liam walk into the school. Then he checked his watch. 7 hours until pickup. 7 hours until the transfer. 7 hours until the bribe was complete. Back at the mansion, Isabel paced the kitchen like a lioness, checking the time every few minutes. At 10:03 a.m., she opened the pantry, reached deep behind the cleaning supplies, and pulled out the burner phone she had tucked there. She turned it on. One new message glowed across the cracked screen. "Ray, we're on schedule." Isabel exhaled in relief. But she didn't notice Elena's laundry basket sitting just behind the pantry doorway, or the fact that the maid had walked in seconds earlier and that she had heard most of that without meaning to. Elena stopped breathing. Her mind raced, replaying the words she had overheard. "We're on schedule." What schedule? Who was she talking to? Why was her voice so different? Why was she whispering? Something felt wrong. Very wrong. And by 2:40 p.m., when Elena returned to Oak Ridge to pick up Liam, the world she thought she knew would start to crack. Because Liam Carter would not be standing at the gate. And the truth behind that burner phone would unravel everything.
Maya didn't sleep that night. She didn't even sit. She scrubbed the kitchen floors long after midnight, not because they needed it, but because it was the one thing she could control. Every time the sponge dragged across tile, she replayed Regina's voice in her head, this smooth, confident lie that had turned Dominic against her in seconds. She shoved his mother. She raised her hand at me. How easily Regina had weaponized her privilege. How quickly everyone believed her. Maya had grown up knowing that when someone rich pointed a finger at someone poor, the room always tilted in the rich person's favor. But she didn't think Dominic, the man who always prided himself on thinking for himself, would fall for it too. She should have known better. At 2:37 a.m., the kitchen lights flicked on behind her. She froze. It was him. Dominic stood in the doorway of the kitchen, exhausted, still in the same shirt he'd been wearing when he fired her. His hair was messy, eyes bloodshot, jaw locked in a tense grind. He looked like a man who'd had a truth rattling inside him, but wasn't sure what it meant yet. "Maya," he said quietly. The tone was different, not angry this time, uncertain. She straightened, wiping her hands on her apron. "Mr. Hale." "Don't," he said. "Don't call me that." She didn't reply. Dominic stepped deeper into the kitchen. "He watched the security footage," he said after a long pause. The words hovered in the air like a cold wind. Maya didn't breathe. He continued, slow and measured. "I saw you kneel beside my mother. I saw you catch her before she slipped. I saw your hands nowhere near Regina." Maya closed her eyes for a moment. "So why am I still here?" she whispered. Dominic swallowed. "Because Regina deleted part of the footage." Her eyes snapped open. "She knew the house system better than I thought she did. She deleted the 30-second segment right after my mother stumbled. That's what she showed me. It looks like you grabbed her arm. It looks like—" He stopped. "It looks like exactly what she accused you of." Maya felt something cold settle in her chest. "She set me up." He nodded once, reluctantly. "She did." "Why?" Maya's voice cracked. "What did I ever do to her?" He hesitated, and that hesitation alone told Maya he already had an idea and didn't want to say it out loud. She took a step toward him. "Why, Dominic?" He looked at her then, really looked, as if he were seeing a person he hadn't allowed himself to see before, someone he knew intimately but had never admitted to knowing intimately. "She thinks I care about you." Maya's breath stuttered. "That I rely on you, that I trust you." He exhaled shakily. "She thinks you matter to me." "Do I?" Maya wanted to ask, but the words felt too heavy, too dangerous. Instead, she whispered, "She thinks I'm a threat." "Yes." Maya shook her head. "I have never once stepped out of my place, never given her a reason." "You breathe," he cut in. "That's reason enough for someone like her." Silence wrapped the kitchen like thick fog. After a moment, Maya forced herself back into the only posture she trusted. Professional, neutral, invisible. "So what do you want from me, sir?" Dominic flinched at the "sir." He ran his hair through his head. "I want you to tell me everything, exactly what happened today, every detail." Maya hesitated, not because she had anything to hide, but because she already knew how this story ended. People like her didn't win. But she told him anyway. She told him how she'd guided her mother carefully down the hallway, how Regina had appeared out of nowhere, perfume thick, heels snapping sharply against the marble, as if she owned the place already. How she'd smirked, how she'd asked questions that weren't questions like, "Why are you touching her? Why are you holding her so tight? Why do you always make yourself so necessary around here?" She told him how Regina had leaned in close, low enough for only Maya to hear. "He thinks you're loyal. He doesn't know how replaceable you are." She told him how your mother had slipped, how Regina had gasped dramatically and shouted before Maya even had the chance to steady her. She told him the truth. Every word. Dominic listened without interrupting. Not once. When she finished, he didn't speak for a long time. "Why didn't you defend yourself earlier?" he finally asked. Maya laughed, a quiet, bitter sound. "Would you have believed me?" He looked like he wanted to say yes, but knew better. She continued, softer. "People like me don't get the luxury of raising our voice to people like her. I'm a maid. She's your future wife." Dominic rubbed his eyes. "She's not." But he stopped, and that told Maya everything. "Dominic, your mother could have fallen. Something terrible could have happened. And Regina didn't care. She only cared about framing me. "I know," he whispered. "Then why are you hesitating?" He closed his eyes as if bracing for impact. "Because if I confront her, everything changes." "Good," Maya said. "Not good," he whispered. "My company, my mother's care, the wedding, the board, everything becomes a battlefield." Maya stepped back, arms crossing over her chest. "So you're asking me to stay silent?" "No," he said instantly. "No, I'm asking you to let me handle it." She shook her head. "Handle it how? By pretending she didn't lie, that she didn't try to destroy me?" Dominic stepped closer, voice low but urgent. "I'm trying to be careful, because Regina is not just manipulative, she's strategic. Her family has influence, money. They can ruin people. They already ruined me," Maya said. "Or did you forget? You fired me in front of your entire staff." Pain flickered across his face. "I was wrong." She looked away. "Maya," he said softly, "I can fix this." "No," she whispered. "You can't fix what you broke. You can only choose what you do next." He opened his mouth, but footsteps echoed down the hallway. Heel clicks. Regina. Maya tensed instinctively. Regina swept into the kitchen wearing a silk robe that probably cost more than Maya made in a month. Her eyes flicked from Dominic to Maya instantly, calculating, ice cold, angry that she wasn't the center of attention. "Well, isn't this cozy?" she said with a sugary smile. Dominic straightened. "Regina, we need to talk." Regina's eyebrow arched. "At 3 a.m? About what?" Dominic didn't answer. Maya felt the air shift, like the temperature dropped. Regina turned her attention fully to Maya. "Why is she still here? I told you to get rid of her." "You deleted footage," Dominic said. "You tampered with evidence." Her lips parted, then closed, then curved into a smirk. "I don't know what you think you saw, but you should choose your next words very carefully." Dominic stepped toward her. "You lied." She didn't flinch. "And you believed me. That's the part that matters." Maya's stomach twisted. Regina wasn't apologizing. She wasn't denying. She was flaunting it. Dominic stared at her as if seeing her for the first time. Regina leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "You know what your problem is, Dominic? You let the help get too comfortable, and when they get comfortable, they forget their place." Something in Dominic snapped. Maya saw it in the way his jaw clenched, the way his shoulders squared. "That's enough," he said. "We're done here." Regina's eyes gleamed. "Are we?" she whispered. Then she walked out. Her heels echoed down the hallway like warning shots.
Maya exhaled shakily. Dominic turned to her, breath uneven. "This isn't over." Maya nodded. "I know." And for the first time all night, she believed it. Because Regina wasn't walking away. She was circling. And the war had just begun.
Regina didn't sleep. People like her didn't retreat. They regrouped. By morning, the entire mansion felt like it was holding its breath. The staff moved quietly, exchanging uneasy glances. The atmosphere wasn't just tense, it was electrically charged, as if the walls themselves knew something monumental was about to break. Maya kept her distance, focusing on preparing breakfast for Mrs. Hale. Anything to stay out of Regina's orbit. But even from across the house, she could feel Regina stalking. Footsteps with intention, voices low and heated behind closed doors, the clink of a glass set down too hard. Everyone felt it. Dominic emerged from his office at 9:12 a.m. sharp, jaw set, eyes hollow from no sleep. He wore a pressed shirt, but hadn't buttoned the last 2 buttons correctly, a sign Maya had never seen from him. He looked like a man preparing for war.
And Regina was waiting for him in the living room, dressed in a white suit sharp enough to cut someone. "Dominic?"
she said, rising with a controlled smile. "Before you start lecturing me, I think we should talk like adults." "That's exactly what I intend to do," he replied. "Good," she said, crossing her arms, "because you owe me an apology." Maya heard the words from the hallway and froze mid-step. "An apology?" Regina continued smoothly. "You embarrassed me last night, threatening me in front of the maid. Really? Is that how you treat the woman you're supposed to marry?" Dominic inhaled slowly. "You lied." Regina tilted her head. "I curated the truth." "That's not— It is when you're protecting our family," she insisted. "Your mother is fragile. That girl is reckless. I saw danger and responded accordingly." "You framed her," Dominic said, voice rising. "You manipulated footage." Regina smirked. "And? You act so surprised. This is what women in my position do, Dominic. We protect our place." "That's not protection," he shot back. "That's sabotage." She took a step forward, eyes narrowing. "Don't pretend you're suddenly the moral compass here. You fired her without asking a single question. You believed me instantly. That wasn't my fault. That was yours." Dominic stopped speaking. Because she was right. Painfully right, and Regina knew exactly how to twist that knife. She walked a slow circle around him. "You're not angry at me. You're angry at yourself, but instead of taking responsibility, you're projecting." Maya, hidden just around the corner, felt her stomach drop. Because this was Regina's power. Not beauty, not wealth, but emotional precision. She could dismantle a person with the truth twisted just enough to warp reality. Dominic steadied himself. "I want you to leave." Regina blinked, then laughed, genuinely, like it was the funniest thing she had ever heard. "Leave?" she repeated. "Dominic, sweetheart, this is my house too." "It isn't," he said firmly. "Not anymore." Regina's smile faded. Very slowly. "You're making a mistake," she said. "No, I made one last night, and I'm correcting it." "And what about the engagement?" "It's over." Regina froze. Her jaw tightened. Her fingers curled into fists. "You don't get to end things with me," she said through her teeth. "My family's investment in your company—" "I'll buy it back." Her nostrils flared. "You can't afford to." "I'll figure it out." She took a step closer, eyes narrowing. "Think about your mother. Think about her medical bills. Think about your board. You're making a decision that jeopardizes everything." "I'm making the first honest decision I've made in months." Regina's eyes shot toward the hallway, toward Maya, who she knew had been listening. Maya ducked back, but not fast enough. Regina's expression sharpened like a blade. "So this is about her," she hissed. "A maid you pretend not to care about." Dominic didn't respond, which was answer enough. Regina grabbed his shirt. "Look at me. You think you're choosing love, loyalty, some savior fantasy?" Her voice cracked in fury. "She will never belong in your world." "That's not your decision," he said quietly. Regina pulled back, shaking with rage. "You're throwing away your whole life for a girl who wipes your floors." The insult hit Maya like a slap. Dominic's voice dropped to a dangerous calm. "Don't talk about her like that," Regina scoffed. "Or what? You'll fire me too?" "Worse." Regina stepped back in mock fear. "Ooh, scary. The billionaire with a conscience is threatening me." Dominic walked to his office door. "Pack your things." "I'm not going anywhere," she snapped. "Then I'll have security escort you out." Regina opened her mouth, but a voice behind them cut sharply through the room. "You will not speak to my son that way." Everyone froze. Mrs. Hale stood at the base of the stairs, leaning on her cane, eyes fierce despite her frailty. Maya rushed forward to support her, but Mrs. Hale shook her head and stood tall on her own. Regina's face drained of color. "Mrs. Hale, you shouldn't be walking downstairs without Maya," the older woman interrupted. "You're right, I shouldn't." Maya steadied her gently. "Ma'am," Mrs. Hale patted her arm. "Thank you, dear." Regina stepped forward, voice trembling with fake sweetness. "I think there's been a misunderstanding." "No, the misunderstanding is that you believed you could hurt my son and the woman who cares for me and walk away untouched." Dominic blinked. "Mom, what are you talking about?" Mrs. Hale lifted her chin. "I saw the footage before Regina deleted it." A heavy silence. Maya's heart stopped. "Mom?" Dominic whispered. You saw?" Mrs. Hale nodded. "I didn't want to cause conflict until I understood what her intentions were." Dominic turned slowly toward Regina. Pure betrayal. Regina's lips parted, but no sound came out. Mrs. Hale looked directly at her. "You pushed me." Maya's breath caught. Dominic's hands curled into fists. "What?" Regina staggered back. No, I didn't. She slipped." "You nudged her elbow as I walked past," she said, clearly. "Not enough to injure me, just enough to create a moment you could blame on Maya." Regina shook her head violently. "She's old, she's senile, she doesn't know what she saw." "I may be old, but I'm not blind." Regina's face contorted. "Dominic," she said, grabbing his arm, "listen to me. She's lying. They're teaming up." He pulled his arm away. Regina lost her grip. "Get out," Dominic said softly. "Dominic!" "Out." His voice cracked like thunder. Regina looked between the three of them, Dominic, Maya, Mrs. Hale, and realized she had lost. Completely. She straightened her suit, lifted her chin, masked her horror under icy composure. "This isn't over," she whispered. Dominic didn't flinch. "It is." Regina walked out the front door without another word, slamming it so hard the windows rattled. The moment she was gone, Dominic exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for months. Mrs. Hale touched Maya's hand. "You don't deserve what she did to you." Maya's eyes filled. "Thank you, ma'am." Dominic turned to the two women standing together, the two people Regina had targeted most, and something shifted deep in his expression. Resolute, regret, and something else he wasn't ready to name. "This changes everything." And it did, because Regina was gone. But the damage she caused? That was only beginning to surface.
The house didn't return to peace after Regina left. If anything, it felt heavier, as if her absence created a vacuum that sucked every buried truth to the surface. Dominic spent the rest of the day pacing, making tense phone calls behind his office door. The staff kept their heads down, pretending not to hear the words that slipped out between clenched teeth. Damage control. Cancel the contracts. No, I don't care what her father threatens. And then the one that made the entire kitchen go silent. I want her access revoked. All of it. By afternoon, the whole household felt like a battlefield after the smoke settles, but before anyone dares move. Maya kept to her duties, not wanting to make things worse. She moved quietly, helping Mrs. Hale with her routines, bringing her tea, checking her medications twice. But something in Mrs. Hale's demeanor had shifted since the confrontation. She wasn't fragile, she wasn't confused, she wasn't even afraid. She was sharp and watching. Maya walked her back to her room after lunch. Mrs. Hale sank into her armchair with a tired sigh, but her eyes were clear. "My dear," the older woman said gently, "you should sit." "I'm okay," Maya said. "Really?" "No," Mrs. Hale murmured. "You're trembling."
Maya blinked, surprised, but when she looked down, she realized her hands were shaking. The adrenaline, the fear, the humiliation, it was still ricocheting through her veins hours later. She said. Mrs. Hale watched her with a knowing sadness. People like Regina, they prey on kindness, on quiet hearts. They assume silence is weakness. Maya lowered her eyes. Maybe I am weak. Mrs. Hale reached out and took her hand with surprising strength. No, weak people don't protect others at their own risk. Weak people don't speak truth when they know it will cost them. Maya swallowed. Dominic believed her so easily. He believes what hurts him the least. Most men do. Maya looked up, and for the first time she saw the truth in the older woman's expression. Fear not for herself, but for her son, for the life he had tied to a woman who saw love as leverage. I'm sorry she dragged you into this, Mrs. Hale said softly. You didn't drag me, Maya murmured. I stayed because you needed someone. And you stayed even when you were the one being punished. Never apologize for loyalty, my dear. It makes people like Regina furious. Maya let a tired laugh slip. I just wish I knew what comes next. Mrs. Hale sighed. Next, the calm before the real storm. Maya frowned. What do you mean? Mrs. Hale looked out the window, her voice dropping. Regina is gone, but she is not finished. A chill ran down Maya's spine. Meanwhile, Dominic was fighting a different battle. He was in his study, surrounded by financial reports, shareholder notes, and legal briefs. Hours passed, but every phone call only made things worse. Regina's father, a man whose name carried weight in every elite circle, had learned about the broken engagement, and he was furious. By early evening, Dominic had lost 2 international contracts, 3 major investors, and a partnership deal he had spent years cultivating. His assistant texted him twice. Board emergency meeting tomorrow at 9. He tossed the phone down and pressed his palms to his eyes. He knew there would be consequences. He just hadn't realized how immediate or how personal they would be. A soft knock broke through his thoughts. He didn't look up. I'm not available. The door cracked open anyway. It wasn't a staff member. It was Maya. She stepped inside cautiously, holding a cup of coffee. I just thought you might need something warm. Dominic lifted his head. There were dark circles under his eyes, his hair was disheveled, and the weight on his shoulders seemed almost physical. But when he saw her, his expression softened. You don't have to take care of me, he said quietly. I know, but you look like you haven't breathed since this morning. He exhaled a dry laugh. That obvious, huh? She set the cup on his desk. I've seen dying plants with more color than you right now. He cracked a faint smile, small but real. Thank you. She nodded and turned to leave. Maya, he said suddenly. She paused. He stood, hesitating, as if choosing each word with care. I need to say something about everything that happened. You don't have to. Yes, I do. He walked closer, stopping just a breath away. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I doubted you. I'm sorry I let her treat you like that. I'm sorry I didn't protect my mother from her sooner, and I'm sorry I didn't see the situation for what it was. Maya's throat tightened. You were trying to help the woman you thought you loved. No, he said. I was trying to protect a future that wasn't real. I trusted the wrong person. She swallowed hard. Dominic, you deserved better. The words hung in the air, warm, heavy, dangerous. Before she could respond, his office phone rang. He stepped back, jaw clenching. Reed, he answered. What is it? The voice on the other end was frantic. Dominic froze. What? He said sharply. When? His face drained of color. Maya felt her heart drop. What happened? He hung up slowly. Maya, he said, voice hollow. Security found something. She felt the room tilt. Found what? A tracking device. On what? His eyes met hers, and the fear there was unmistakable. On Matthew's school car. Her stomach plummeted. Was it Regina? She whispered. Dominic shook his head. They're not sure yet, but they also found something else. What? A receipt. She frowned. For what? He swallowed. For a burner phone. Maya felt her breath catch. Please tell me it wasn't. It was purchased with the household card. She blinked. That's impossible. Only Regina and Naomi have access to... She word stopped. Dominic's eyes widened with the same realization. Both spoke at the same time. Naomi. Before either could react, the house alarm blared, a shrill, high-pitched warning. Then a voice from the main hallway. Mr. Reed, the security team needs you now. Maya and Dominic rushed out of the office, almost colliding with two guards running in the opposite direction. What happened? Dominic demanded. One guard swallowed hard. It's Matthew, sir. Dominic's face went white. Where is he? Is he hurt? The guard shook his head. He's gone. Maya's scream caught in her chest. Gone? What do you mean gone? He never made it to his room after tennis practice. The cameras in the west hallway, they were disabled. The house spun. Mrs. Hale's warning echoed sharply in Maya's mind. Regina is gone, but she is not finished. Maya clutched the railing to steady herself. Dominic, who had access to that hallway? The guard glanced nervously at his clipboard. According to the logs, Naomi. Shock. Ice. Horror. Dominic's voice cracked. Where is she now? The guard opened his mouth, but a scream ripped through the house before he could answer. A woman's scream, the kind that comes from terror, not pain. Everyone ran toward the sound, down the hall, past the guest rooms, to the laundry door. It was open. Inside, laundry baskets lay overturned, clothes scattered, and on the tile floor, Naomi, unconscious, a bruise on her temple, and next to her, smeared on the wall in frantic red marker, a message, 48 hours, don't call the police. Dominic gasped. Maya felt the world collapse around her. Because this wasn't a kidnapping for ransom. This wasn't random. This wasn't about money. This was revenge. Regina's voice seemed to drip from the walls. This isn't over. Maya stepped back, horror twisting her stomach, because she realized something chilling. This wasn't just Regina's revenge. Someone else was helping her. Someone inside. Someone much closer. And the next 48 hours would determine whether Matthew lived or died.
The moment Dominic read the words on the laundry room wall, the mansion erupted. Alarms blared. Guards sprinted down hallways. The head of security barked orders into his radio, demanding a lockdown. But nothing. None of the frantic scrambling, the noise, the movement touched Dominic Reed. He stood frozen, staring at the red letters bleeding down the tile. 48 hours. Don't call the police. His breathing turned sharp, shallow, uneven, like a man drowning on dry land. Maya had never seen him like this. She stepped closer. Dominic? He jerked away, grabbing the wall as if the house were swaying. They took my son. They took my boy. His voice cracked on the last word. Maya felt her heart twist. Dominic Reed, the man who never lost control, the CEO who commanded rooms and silenced board members with a single look, was unraveling right in front of her. But Maya didn't hesitate. Dominic, she said firmly, look at me. He didn't. She moved closer, forcing him to meet her eyes. We're getting Matthew back. His chest heaved. How? Maya, how? Regina planned this. Naomi helped her. There could be more people. I don't even know where to start. Yes, you do, she said quietly. He frowned. You start with what Regina wants. The words seemed to hit him like cold water. Maya continued.
She wants control. She wants revenge. She wants you to feel powerless. She wants you to panic. Congratulations. She got what she wanted. Not for long. Maya turned toward Naomi's unconscious body. Security medics lifted her onto a stretcher. Mrs. Hale suddenly appeared in the doorway, her hair loose, her breathing shaky, her eyes wide with terror. "What happened? Where is Matthew? Why are there alarms?" Dominic reached her and knelt down beside her wheelchair. "Mom," his voice broke, "Matthew's been taken." Mrs. Hale's hand flew to her mouth. "No, no, no, not Matthew, not my baby." He hugged her, holding on like a man clinging to a life raft. Maya watched quietly, her chest aching. This family, fractured, wounded, drowning, had just lost the child who held them all together. Security approached Dominic. "Sir, we need you in the command room, now. We've isolated a vehicle leaving the property around the time of the abduction." Dominic nodded, but didn't release his mother. Maya stepped forward. "I'll stay with her," she said. Mrs. Hale grabbed her hand with surprising strength. "Don't let them lie to us," she whispered. Maya nodded. "I won't." Dominic followed the security team into the surveillance room, a windowless space lined with monitors. His jaw was clenched so hard the muscles twitched. "Show me," he demanded. The head of security rewound footage from the gate camera. A black van, tinted windows, slow enough not to trigger suspicion, fast enough not to linger. "That could be anyone," Dominic snapped. "Wait," a guard said. "Look at the right taillight." He zoomed in. A hairline crack. Barely visible, but familiar. "Sir," the guard whispered, "we checked internal parking logs. That van had access to the property 3 days ago." Dominic stiffened. "Who authorized it?" The guard swallowed. "Naomi." The room went silent. Dominic slammed his fist against the table so violently the screen shook. She planned this. She didn't just help Regina, she coordinated the whole thing. The guard shifted nervously. "There's more, sir." Dominic turned. The guard handed him a small plastic evidence bag. Inside was a folded piece of paper. Dominic opened it with trembling hands. A photo slid out first, of him and Matthew at the beach last summer, the little boy on his shoulders, both laughing. Maya's heart dropped. When she saw it, whoever took Matthew had been watching for longer than any of them realized. Beneath the photo was a note, cut from magazine letters, ransom style. "You took everything from me. Now you'll know how it feels. 24 hours until first instruction." Dominic staggered back, gripping the edge of the table. "This isn't just Regina," he whispered. "Someone else wants revenge." Meanwhile, upstairs, Maya sat with Mrs. Hale. The older woman trembled violently. "Maya, you don't understand. Regina isn't capable of orchestrating something like this alone. She's cruel, yes, manipulative, vindictive. But this, a kidnapping? This is personal." "I know," Maya whispered. Mrs. Hale looked toward the window. "There's something I never told Edward. Something I hoped would never see the light again." Maya leaned in. "What do you mean?" Mrs. Hale wiped a tear with trembling fingers. "Regina wasn't the first woman to try to control Edward's life. Years ago, he was engaged to someone else, someone dangerous." "Dangerous how?" "She lied about everything. Her identity, her family, her finances. When Edward broke it off, she threatened him. She said he would regret humiliating her." I felt a chill crawl up my spine. "What was her name?" Mrs. Hale swallowed hard. "Lena Dalton." Maya froze. "Dalton. Ray Dalton. Regina's hired kidnapper. Oh God, this was bigger than revenge. This was legacy, history, a family feud that had rotted for years. Before she could respond, the door burst open. Dominic stood there, pale, shaking, furious. "We need to talk, now." Maya rose immediately. "What happened?" "They found something else, in Naomi's locker." He held out a tablet. "Security footage." Maya leaned closer. The video showed Naomi whispering to someone behind the garage. Someone tall, broad shoulders, tattoos on his neck. Ray Dalton. Maya gasped. Naomi was working with him? No, Dominic said darkly. She was afraid of him. He hit play again. Ray grabbed Naomi's arm, pushed her, threatened her, forced her to helping. Maya covered her mouth. She wasn't a traitor. She was a pawn, Dominic finished, voice breaking. And now she's in a hospital bed because she tried to fight back. Mrs. Hale trembled. Dominic, Ray Dalton is Lena's brother. She's involved. I know she is. Dominic's knees nearly buckled. Lena? Mom, why didn't you ever tell me? Mrs. Hale cried softly. Because I never thought she'd come back. Maya stepped forward. Dominic, she said, there's something you need to understand. He turned to her desperately. Tell me what to do, Maya. She swallowed, because she finally saw the full picture. This isn't about money. This isn't about Regina. This is about destroying your family. Every move they've made is personal. Dominic clenched his fists. Then we make it personal. Maya stepped closer, forcing him to hear every word. They want you scared. They want you desperate. They want you broken. Don't give them what they want. Do the one thing they don't expect. What's that? He whispered. Her answer was simple. Stay smart. He exhaled shakily. She held his gaze. We find out where Naomi was supposed to take Matthew before Ray intercepted her. Dominic nodded, the first spark of hope flickering back into his eyes. Then we dig into Lena, continued Maya. Find her connections, her last address, her family's records, everything. And then, he asked, voice trembling. Maya's eyes hardened with resolve. Then we hunt them. Dominic inhaled sharply. Together. Maya nodded. Together. The mansion felt colder, darker, as if the walls themselves were listening. The countdown had officially begun. 48 hours. Regina's rage. Lena's revenge. Ray's violence. 3 enemies, 1 kidnapped child, and a truth none of them had fully realized yet. This wasn't just a kidnapping. It was a war. And Maya, the maid they underestimated, was about to become their biggest problem.
The world outside the Reed mansion moved forward as usual. Cars rushing down Sunset Boulevard, tourists taking photos outside the gates, the morning sun warming Beverly Hills like nothing had ever happened. But inside the mansion, time felt suspended. Every breath was heavy, every step echoed with dread, and every glance carried a silent question. What now? Edward Reed had not left the living room for nearly 12 hours. Even after the police escorted Vanessa away in handcuffs, even after the reporters swarmed the front gates, even after Matthew was safely cleaned up, fed, and put to bed, he sat motionless on the leather sofa. His elbows rested on his knees, his palms pressed into his forehead. The image of Vanessa screaming, clawing at the air while officers dragged her out, replayed in a brutal loop. She had betrayed him, not with another man, not in person he would burn down the world to protect. Across from him, Naomi stood quietly near the fireplace. She didn't speak, not wanting to crowd him, not wanting to intrude on a father's heartbreak, but her eyes held a sadness just as deep. She had witnessed betrayal before, when her own partner walked out on her and their child. She knew the pain of realizing the person sleeping beside you was a stranger. Edward finally exhaled, a long, raw sound. "How?" he whispered. "How did I not see it?" Naomi stepped forward slowly. "Edward, people like Vanessa are good at hiding what they are. You trusted her. That doesn't make you blind." He didn't look up. "She paid someone to steal my son, Naomi. My son." His voice cracked. "She let him be terrified, hungry, alone. What kind of monster does that?" Naomi didn't answer. There was no answer. Silence settled again, thick, painful, suffocating. Then, softly, almost reluctantly, Naomi said, "There's more you should know." Edward lifted his head finally, studying her face. "What more?" She swallowed. "The man who took Matthew, Ray Dalton, he's not just some criminal she hired last minute. They've been in contact for weeks, maybe longer. I found deleted messages on her tablet, plans, logistics, conversations about you." Edward's knuckles tightened until the skin turned white. "She was working with him?" he asked in a low, dangerous voice. "Not just working with him," Naomi continued. "She was close to him." His expression tightened. Betrayal had layers, and each one cut deeper. "They planned this entire thing," Naomi said. "Ray knew Matthew's schedule. They knew when the driver would be late. They knew when I'd arrive to pick him up. Every detail was mapped out." Edward clenched his jaw. "And I was sleeping next to her all this time." Naomi took a careful breath. "There's something else. She didn't do it for money. The ransom was part of her plan, yes, but that wasn't her real goal." Edward stared. "Then what the hell did she want?" Naomi hesitated. "She wanted to break you emotionally. She wanted control over you, and she knew the only way to do that was through your son." For the first time since the nightmare began, Edward looked genuinely afraid. "What does that mean?" he asked. Naomi lowered her voice. "Police found something in her safe, a legal document she drafted with her own attorney, a petition for emergency full custody of Matthew, claiming that you were psychologically unstable and unfit to be a parent." Edward froze. "She wanted to take my son away from me?" he whispered. Naomi nodded. "The kidnapping was supposed to be her evidence that you were a danger, that the mansion wasn't safe, that your lifestyle put Matthew at risk." Edward's world tilted. Vanessa hadn't wanted money. She wanted power. She wanted Matthew. She wanted to destroy Edward's life, piece by piece. He stood suddenly, pacing the room with a storm in his eyes. "She was going to take him! She would have ruined me, taken everything!" Naomi stepped closer. "Edward, you're not alone in this." He paused, meeting her gaze. For the first time she met him, the billionaire looked nothing more than a broken man trying to hold himself together. "You saved my son," he said quietly. "If you hadn't gone after him, if you hadn't followed your instincts—" His voice broke again. Naomi looked away, embarrassed by the intensity. Any mother would have done the same. "No," Edward said firmly. "No, Naomi, not anyone. You did." He took a shaky breath. "And I don't know how to thank you." She offered a gentle, tired smile. "I didn't do it for thanks. I did it for Matthew." Edward nodded slowly. Then his expression shifted, still heavy, but steadier, more resolute. "We need to deal with what comes next," he said.
The press, the investigation, my company is already calling non-stop. Then let's take it step by step, Naomi said. He sat again, leaning back, letting exhaustion settle into his bones. But this time, he wasn't collapsing. He was rebuilding. Start with Matthew, she said softly. He needs stability. He needs calm. He needs you. Edward's eyes softened. He asked for you when he woke up. Naomi's breath caught. He cried until I told you you were still here. He trusts you, more than anyone. She blinked away sudden tears. I'll stay with him, as long as he needs. Edward hesitated, then said something that surprised even him. As long as we need. Naomi froze. The words hung in the air, warm and terrifying. Edward cleared his throat. I didn't mean, I just meant... I know, she said quickly. But she didn't know. Not really. Not yet. A knock broke the moment. It was Officer Ramirez, the detective leading the case. His face was tight, serious. We have an update, he said. Vanessa's not talking, but Ray Dalton escaped custody during transfer. Edward shot to his feet. What? Ramirez nodded grimly. The vehicle transporting him was hit by another car. Multiple injuries. Dalton fled on foot. We think he might come after Vanessa, or you. Naomi felt her stomach drop. Edward stepped forward, voice ice cold. Find him. We're trying, Ramirez said. But until we do, you need extra security. Edward turned to Naomi immediately. You and Matthew will not leave this house without protection. Naomi's breath quickened. Edward! This is non-negotiable. Ramirez nodded. We'll have officers posted outside, but be careful. Dalton's desperate, and desperate men are unpredictable. As Ramirez left, Naomi and Edward exchanged a look. Fear, determination, unspoken questions all wrapped together. Ray Dalton was out there. He knew their names, their faces, their routines, and Vanessa hadn't even begun to reveal everything she knew. For the first time, Naomi realized this wasn't over. Not even close. The real danger was just beginning, and whatever came next, they'd be fighting it together.
The Reed mansion had never been this quiet, not even after the kidnapping, not even after Vanessa's arrest. This silence was different, thicker, heavier, almost electric. It clung to the walls, to the furniture, to the very air Naomi breathed. Night had fallen. Shadows stretched long across the hallways. Outside, 2 squad cars idled near the gate. Officer Ramirez had promised non-stop surveillance until Ray Dalton was caught. But Naomi couldn't shake the feeling that danger wasn't outside the house. It was getting closer. Matthew slept upstairs in his bedroom, clutching the new stuffed dinosaur Naomi had bought him earlier that day. Edward had insisted she keep the boy with her at all times, but Matthew had finally loosened his grip enough to fall asleep. Naomi had checked on him 3 times in the last hour. On the 4th trip up the stairs, she heard something. A faint, metallic click. Downstairs. She froze, her pulse spiking. That wasn't a normal house sound. Not the AC, not the refrigerator, not a settling floorboard. It was a door latch. Someone opening something they shouldn't. Naomi forced herself to move silently, descending 1 step at a time, her heart thudding against her ribs. Edward was supposed to be in a study, working through a stack of crisis management calls with his legal team and PR advisors. But the study door was slightly open, and the light was off. A knot twisted in her stomach. "Edward?" she whispered. No answer. Then she saw it, the faint beam of a flashlight cutting a line across the hallway. Someone was inside the house, moving with purpose, not hesitation. Naomi's breath caught. Ray Dalton. It had to be. He knew the layout. He knew where Vanessa hid things. He knew how to slip past security. She backed away instinctively and reached for her phone,
only to realize she had left it upstairs charging. "Idiot!" she mouthed silently. A floorboard creaked behind her. Naomi spun. A hand clamped over her mouth before she could scream. "Don't move," a voice hissed, low, cold, unmistakable. Ray Dalton dragged her backward into the dark dining room, pinning her against the wall. He smelled like sweat and gasoline, like someone who had spent hours running. "Long time no see, sweetheart," he whispered into her ear. Naomi twisted, managing to shove him off balance. She scrambled toward the doorway, but Ray grabbed her wrist, slamming her back into the wall so hard her breath left her lungs. "I didn't come here for you, but I'm not letting you ruin the rest of my plan." Naomi tried to stay calm. Panic wouldn't help her now. "What do you want?" she rasped. Ray's laugh was sharp, humorless. "I need what Vanessa was supposed to give me. The money, the documents, the leverage." Naomi's blood ran cold. "Vanessa's in jail," Naomi said. "Whatever deal you had with her is dead." "Not quite," Ray said, lifting the flashlight under his chin so she could see his face. Wild eyes, bruised cheek, dried blood near his temple. "She kept things, evidence, insurance." Naomi glared. "You think she left it for you? I think she left it somewhere in this house, and you're going to help me find it." Naomi's mind raced. There was one place Vanessa would hide something important, her private dressing room, the one she never let the staff clean. But if Naomi told Ray that, he would go there. He would tear apart the house. He might hurt Edward. He might go after Matthew. Naomi steadied her breathing. She had to stall. "You're wasting your time," she said. "There's nothing here." Ray's hand shot up, squeezing her jaw painfully. Wrong answer. Before he could say more, a deep voice cut through the dark. "Let her go." Ray turned. Edward stood in the doorway, a fireplace poker in his hand, face etched with exhaustion and fury. Naomi had never seen him look so dangerous. Ray smirked. "Edward Reed, the man of the hour." "Let her go," Edward repeated, stepping closer, poker raised. "Or what?" Ray sneered. "You going to hit me? You rich boys don't know how to get your hands dirty." Edward didn't flinch. "I'm not here to negotiate." Ray's grip on Naomi tightened. "She tells me where the files are and I'll walk out of here. You'll never see me again." Edward's eyes flicked to Naomi's for a split second. "Are you hurt? What do you need me to do?" And without a word, she understood. He trusted her. Naomi inhaled deeply and looked at Ray. "Fine, I'll tell you." Ray's eyebrows lifted in surprise. "They're upstairs." Naomi kept everything in a safe behind her mirror. Ray pushed her forward. "Show me." Edward tensed. This was a terrible idea. They both knew it. Ray wanted insurance. He wanted leverage. Once he had it, he'd have no reason to leave them alive. But Naomi raised one hand, silently telling Edward to wait, to trust her. They climbed the staircase slowly, Ray behind her with the flashlight, Edward following far enough not to provoke him, but close enough to intervene. Naomi led Ray into Vanessa's dressing room. The vanity mirror gleamed under the dim nightlight. "This one," Naomi said. Ray smirked. "Knew it." He pushed her aside and reached up, tapping the mirror frame, looking for a hidden latch. Naomi watched his back carefully. Edward stood just outside the doorway, poker still in hand. He caught Naomi's eye. Now? Not yet. Ray finally found what he was looking for. A faint click filled the air as the mirror swung open. Behind it was a small steel safe. Ray grinned with triumph. "There you are, sweetheart." He bent over the keypad. Naomi's heart hammered. She needed one opening, one distraction, 1 second. Ray typed in the first numbers. Edward shifted his weight. Ray paused. "Don't even think about it, Reed." He turned back to the safe, and that was the second Naomi needed. She grabbed the heavy crystal perfume bottle on the vanity and smashed it into Ray's temple. Ray staggered, cursing, reaching for her, but Edward was already on him. The poker came down hard, once, twice, until Ray collapsed face first onto the carpet, unconscious. Naomi stumbled backward, shaking, breathing hard. Edward dropped the poker and rushed to her. "Naomi, God, are you okay?" She nodded, though her hands trembled violently. "I'm fine. He was going to—" Edward wrapped his arms around her before she could finish, pulling her against his chest in a fierce, protective embrace. "You're safe," he murmured. "You're safe. I've got you." Naomi closed her eyes, letting herself sink into the moment she'd been fighting against for weeks. The warmth, the strength, the feeling of belonging somewhere she never expected. Downstairs, officers burst into the house, shouting commands, filling the hallway with chaos. Edward finally let Naomi go, but his hand stayed on her shoulders. They guided the officers upstairs. Ray was cuffed, dragged to his feet, and hauled away. He shot Naomi a murderous glare as he passed. "You ruined everything." Naomi didn't flinch. "No," she said softly. "I saved someone." Ray was gone before he could respond. As the house settled again, Ramirez approached them. "You two just took down a man we've been hunting for years," he said, shaking his head. "Reed, you owe her your life." Edward didn't even look at the detective when he answered, "I know." The officers left, the lights dimmed, the adrenaline faded. And in the quiet that followed, Edward turned to Naomi, really turned to her, and said the words that changed everything. "You're part of this family now, if you want to be." Naomi's breath caught. Matthew's soft voice drifted from the hallway. "Naomi?" She rushed to him, scooping him into her arms. Edward watched them, mother and child, or something close to it, and felt something inside him settle for the first time in months. The nightmare was over. The danger was gone. And what remained was a beginning for all three of them.